Well, in deference to my granddaughter Catherine, I shaved off that scruffy old beard. It was irritating my chin anyway, and yeah. So gotta listen to your grandkids. So today we're going to do a video on another method of jointing the edge of a board straight. There's probably a number of ways that it can be done, but one way was down here on the edge of the table. I did a video on that. You can watch that. And here's another method. This would take a while, I suppose, if you were trying to straighten a really warped board. But for a board that's just slightly warped, it works pretty darn good. So you have to have a board like this before you start. That cutout right there that you see is the blade being dropped from the top down into this area, and you can see that it cuts all the way through it. And then on this side, I don't know if the camera's going to focus on that. It may. The blade is buried in here, and this side of the blade of the straight edge is a 16th. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong side. Maybe that's why you can't see it. Yeah, you can see that step right there. Right here at my finger, you can see that step. That's about halfway between a 32nd and a 16th. Not quite a 16th of an inch. So you're going to be taking off not quite a 16th of an inch per pass. Now the way that works is, I've already made this one, but you can go through the steps of making your own. Is when I made this, I'm not quite there with the camera, am I? When I made this board, and did the cut down, I already had it clamped on there when I did the cut down, and before I removed it, I put a pin mark right here so that I could relocate it at the same spot each time. There's a black pin mark right there. I don't know if the camera's focusing on that or not, but I pull it to that pin mark, clamp it onto the saw. Alright, I got another clamp on the other end, and I clamp that end down, push it up next tight to the fence, clamp this end down. Then you start the Sawzall, or the Radial Arm Saw motor. Get this ashtray off of here. Start the Radial Arm Saw motor and lower it into the wood. That didn't make a cutting sound because I've already cut the moon shape out of it. So the next thing, after you've dropped the blade in, you have to make sure that this surface right here, with the bump out on it, the 16th minus, a little bit less than a 16th bump out on it, you have to make sure that that edge is flush with your blade. In other words, you have to adjust this blade in and out until, with the blade running, and then you look at it, and it made just the tiniest hint of a mark. Not much, just the tiniest hint of a mark. You're not trying to take anything off on this side, okay? So now once that is accomplished, and you've got the blade set in and out, got it properly set for depth, everything's locked in place. I didn't see much need for anything but a push stick on this operation. Where's my push stick? Because I gotta find the push stick. I don't know where I put my push stick. There it is. because there's no way the board can get pinched in the blade can get pinched in the kerf. So, I really didn't see the need for putting anti-kickback feathers or anything like that. I did adjust the blade guard down to where it just misses the board on this side over here. So I did adjust that down. I hooked up the back because this thing throws stuff everywhere when you're on the rip. And so, but you'll see there's not much, it doesn't take much force to shove it through there. So it's, I doubt very seriously I'm having trouble with a kickback on it. Right up. You're just taking off a whisker. You're taking off a 1/16 of an inch. Ideally, when you're doing the cut, just like using a joiner, it's just like using a joiner. Most of you're putting hand pressure and keeping this board, you're keeping the board pushed over tight to the fence out here. This side, you keep pushed tight to the fence too, and when you're finished, you will have a straight board that you just took a little less than a 1/16 of an inch off. If it's still bowed in the middle, then you'll take off. Then you have to run it through a pass again. Now bear in mind, when you run these through, the bow has to be this way, not this way. Not bowed out like this, but it has to be bowed this way where the points are touching and the middle is not. Otherwise, you'll spend a month and you'll just be rocking it through there and you'll just be recreating the same curve over and over again. So that's about it. The other thing I thought might be of interest is now that I've got the thing all adjusted to the depth of cut and everything like that, let's see how high of a board or how tall of a board you could do. Looks like about 1 3/4, 1 7/8 would probably fit through there. So you're not going to do 4x4s and things like that with this method with this 8-inch saw blade on there. This will take a 10-inch. So you're cutting off such a small amount. This might be a good reason to have a 10-inch blade handy, because you would pick up another inch of height, which would mean that you could probably do close to a 3-inch board if you had the additional height. This seems like a safe way of doing it. I hooked the vacuum hose up, then I see I didn't turn the vacuum on. It still didn't blow stuff all over the place, it just blew it out of the hose. But I sucked it into that dust deputy and down into that container anyway. But I like this method. Yeah, it took me, there was a little fiddling because I hadn't done it before. The process is really pretty simple, although I made it more complicated than I needed to. Here's another caveat. May I interrupt myself? You crank this to the right, clockwise, to raise it. About an hour ago, I wanted to raise it, and I started cranking it to the left. Lost my concentration somehow, old and stupid, I don't know. Anyway, I caught myself because it wasn't going up, but I'd already given it about 2 or 3 cranks, which is a 1/16 of an inch per crank, so I was already at 3/16 to a quarter cranking down. Well, that's on a screw back there. You're forcing it down. It's not just gravity. I mean, you're forcing it down. It's caught in those what do they call those kind of Acme threads? It's caught in those Acme threads. It's gonna go. So what happened was I put so much force on it, I tweaked the whole saw. I wrenched the whole saw out of adjustment, and I had to reset the vertical. I had to reset the vertical on the saw blade. Now, where was I going with this? On how to do this. So here, I'm going to raise this out of there. See this little 1/16 of an inch piece, thick piece that's on there. I kept trying to rip a 1/16 of an inch piece to glue on here. Well, it kept flying apart because it's hard to rip. It's hard to rip a 1/16 of an inch piece off the edge of a board. Then it occurred to me finally, wait a minute, rip a nice 1/8 inch thick piece, glue that on the edge of the board, glue that on the edge along the edge of the board up where you need it, glue it, tape it, let it dry, and then run it through the saw to where you leave yourself an 1/8 inch right here. I mean, it was a no-brainer once I figured it out. So now this end of the board is essentially a 1/16 of an inch wider than this end of the board, and it was so easy to do. I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but it did. So anyway, there it is. That's how you set up to do to joint the edge of a board with a radial arm saw, which would come in handy if you don't have a joiner. You could do an inch. You could do 2x4s, and you can do 1x4s and 1x6s and things like that. I wouldn't want to do anything narrow, really narrow, to joint, like 1.5 inches or something like that. I don't know. I don't like getting my fingers that close to the blade. But you might be able to figure out some hold downs and a push stick, which would make it safe. But for now, I'm just doing it on 3.5 inch boards. Thank you for watching. I hope it was in some way informative.